Welcome everyone to Dr. Jasper version 2. This is our second Dr. Jasper session. We are a little bit later than usual in the month thanks to the holidays and whatnot. Thank you all for joining. This one's going to be on Visualize.js. Again, I've got a poll open. I'm going to close that momentarily here for the next Dr. Jasper session, which will be February 13th, tentatively scheduled for February 13th. And I just wanted to welcome everyone. Thank you guys for joining. This session is going to be about Visualize.js, and I've asked my great colleague Sherman Wood, a longtime Jaspersoft, TIBCO Jaspersoft employee, and now in the engineering department, back where he belongs, I believe, to help.
Maybe, you know, we'll see how we go. No, it's fun. No, it's fun.
Sherman, I'm just going to hand it right over to you, Sherman.
Okay,
thank you very much. And by the way, quick housekeeping thing. If you guys have questions, please use the Q&A feature. You can put them into the chat window, but I prefer the Q&A feature. We can track the questions there. And we will save all those questions for the end of the session. And then we'll start throwing them Sherman's way or my way, and we'll answer the questions there. So again, thank you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Sherman.
Okay, you stop share and I'll share and we'll go. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, I'm not actually sharing. It's just my videos.
Okay.
So I'll be able to share now.
Okay. All righty. So thank you folks for joining. This is in response to the previous session. So obviously Visualize is a big thing. So what we're going to go and do today, we're going to talk about what is embedding first off, why, and that's the thing. We're going to show a demo that we put together to show some best practices about embedding, and we've got a lot of material around that, including the actual application, some components that you can use inside your app, and so on. And we'll talk a bit more like the sort of the project management side of things as well. We'll get into that in terms of how to embed. So I'm trying to do both sort of technical and design and process with all this, and then finally we'll do the Q&A bit. So you know, these are the two main use cases that Jaspersoft focuses on: reporting. We've been doing that for years, big production reporting runs, that sort of thing, and then over the time, a lot of embedded business challenge, a lot of it's sort of embedded analytics, having reports and visualizations appear right inside your application. So we basically, you know, coined the term embedded BI. It's like how do you got all this, you know, all this reports and so on. How do you get them broadly distributed? And the embedding process, which we use Visualize heavily for, is, you know, really key to success of applications. Really, get more information out to people more quickly and more flexibly. Everybody gets happier, make more money, you know, that sort of thing. So, all right. So when you think about embedding, what do you need to do, right? Because generally you're focused on providing information to people who are consumers. They're not analysts. They're not here to go and discover something or work out a business, you know, analytic model or something like that. They're just there to consume. You've got an application that's, say, looking at sales or marketing or whatever process. You know, I know Tyler's there. We're talking about things happening in the court systems and that sort of thing, right? So the people there are, you know, you've got an application that you know, it's got some data around it, usually some data entry screens and that sort of thing, and then you've got all these visualizations and so on that people want to consume and interact with. So really, what have you got to deliver? Well, first off, in a web app, it's about, you know, embedded visualizations and dashboards. That's sort of like a primary thing. People interacting with the information, you know, through the web application in some way, shape, or form. And we'll talk about why seamless is better a bit later. Sometimes you just need data, right? The system, you may just want to have like an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file or something else. Increasingly, people want things out of REST APIs, like microservices that give you data type of thing, right? Reports are still there. people want to be able to take away the content in some way, shape, or form from the application, from the process. And it could be richly formatted, you know, some of the pixel perfect stuff that we do. It could be more sort of data oriented as well. But there's, you know, giving people the power to go and pull that out, or maybe systems to provide that sort of information to systems as well. And last but not least, sort of the best practice is giving your audience some level of self-service. They're not analysts, right? So they want sort of a curated, guided way to get to their information, right? It could be, how do I create a report just for me type of thing that has the data that I want, filtered in my way and given to me via email or through the web application or something like that. You know, we've seen one of the sort of benefits of giving that self-service, some level of self-service to your audience, is that it stops the development cycle, right? We often come across people as saying, you know, can you just make it stop? People just asking for more and more reports. I can't handle it. Give it, please. So if you can enable your application to flexibly give information out to your audience, everybody will be happier. Your audience will be happier because they've got, you know, they don't have to go back to you to go and develop some new visualization or report or something like that. They can get a lot straight out of the application. Now that comes with some gotchas in that generally you're wanting to you know, have a pretty easy user experience for your folks, and also you generally want to start to expose the underlying data in the in your app, in your process, and that comes with, like, how do I present it in the right way so it's understandable, but also how do I control access to the data as well? You know, you don't want everybody seeing everything. You know, we're often Jaspersoft is often used in like a multi-tenant sort of environment where I'm a SaaS provider. I've got different customers. One customer should not see another customer's data, for example, or, you know, there could be some other business rule as well in amongst that. So the security side of it, you know, I sort of think of it in terms of like, it's security, but it's also like personalization, only showing people things that are relevant to them, as well as only the things that they're allowed to do. So what we're going to do is right now is going to dive into the bike share app that, if you haven't come across it, was something we developed last year with some help from some consultants to show the best practices of embedded application development for using Jaspersoft and just embedded BI and embedded analytics just in general, right? It is that link there is it's a live thing off Jaspersoft.com, so you can go through that. It gives you like a guided demo. I'm not going to show you that. I want to show some different things and different workflows and that sort of thing in it. So let us chug straight into that right now. Okay. All right. So there we are. We just got up 7.5 is up on the marketplace, AWS marketplace right now. Where are we here? Where's my friend? There we are. So this is my my environment for the bike share application. So the scenario is their bike share services are in many regions, cities, and so on. You know, racks of bikes that people can just wander along and pick up and go somewhere with. So the scenario here is it's a set of like a manager of a bike share region who's worried about, have we got enough bikes and all that sort of thing, and then a driver, right, who's actually being told by the manager what to go and do, sort of stuff, right? So behind the scenes, we pulled some public data from these bike share services, give off public data, and we decorated it up, and we created the sort of workflows and that sort of thing to help with all that. So let us go in and start seeing this stuff in action. So when I click on Manager and I log in, a lot of stuff just happened just then. I did a single sign-on into the environment. I'm on as the San Francisco Bay Area regional manager, who's got multiple areas within San Francisco and San Jose, Berkeley. It's also Emeryville is sort of in there as well. And so we've got a thing up here. We do this, save an update. We can look at this. We've got a map. We've got some little things, some KPIs, and then sort of details on the KPIs, and a little thing like most active times, like when do bikes mostly get used in this sort of time frame. So it's actually 5 p.m. is very, very high demand compared to other times of the day in that region. So we can just drill into the detail here a bit. Come on, where are you? There we go. So when we drill down on a region, we're now doing into San Francisco last month, and these are all little, just sort of status on. We've got Franklin Square. We've got 2 bikes. We want to deliver 16 and pick up 0, and there's 1 need for repair. And we can do things like send driver to a station, which I'll do in a bit. And then we've got the same sort of metrics down the bottom here with that. Okay. So what is Jaspersoft in this? So Jaspersoft was used in a couple of different ways. We used the Visualize input control call to populate this data. So just using an input control to give data into your app and then completely rework the user experience on that, right? This map is from our TIBCO GeoAnalytics API that the TIBCO has, we own. But it actually wasn't created with Visualize or Jaspersoft at all. It's just a JavaScript widget. But the data for it came from a web service call that ran a report and returned JSON data to go into the map. So when you're dealing with modern web apps, there's a lot of, this is all React based. It could have been Angular, but we chose React because we're happy with that sort of thing. What you find in the architecture is of these modern web apps with these web frameworks is that there's a lot of JavaScript work going on the front end, and then your call having some level of usually REST-based microservices to go back into somewhere to get data and provide transactions and so on. So you can replace at least some of your microservices with Jaspersoft in amongst this, right? So these down here are Jasper reports done with Studio to give this nice fine-grained thing. They've got a hyperlink handler on them, and the hyperlink handler, which is embedded with Visualize, it's got a drill down thing on it as well. So this is another. I'm running a new report basically every time I'm clicking. It's taking the parameters from the environment and drilling it, so it knows it's San Francisco, and it knows for this last month thing, and so on. So how do we drill down that? So so we're using a sort of a variety of techniques in that. We're using some Visualize call, we're using a REST call to get the data for that. We've done single sign-on in amongst all this. Okay. I'll get into some of the development process here, and I know Mike's going to start kicking me because I'm babbling on too much about this, and there's other things to talk about, right? So, so that's sort of one sort of set of stuff, right? Another thing that we'd sort of look into is how do you do some self-service here? So in Jaspersoft, as you're probably used to, if you're a customer, we do a lot of our self-service aimed at audiences is through the ad hoc environment, dashboards, and that sort of thing. So what I've done here is I'm using again Visualize.js to run the resources search API of that, and I put a custom custom widget, tree widget, to show the content of the repository here, and then I put some very light, UX to go. Let's go and show the selected. And so when I go into here, this is an ad hoc view that was done, and now we'll include that through the ad hoc view thing, and it's got select none, and we want to do, I don't know, we want to do locks bike counts this time. And so we can go and modify and export this thing. So this is done with the Visualize side of things. When I do modify and export, I've embedded the ad hoc editor within the screen with just an iframe, because the editors, the dashboard designer and the ad hoc editor, do not they're not Visualize based. They need full screens of Jaspersoft. But we've done some things where we've played with the theme here. We've got a bike share theme to sync up the colors and so on. I haven't upgraded this to 7.5 yet, but we will, that'll be fun. If people haven't seen 7.5 yet, we've done a lot of work on the look and feel of the Jasperport server UI. And this is one area that certainly has been improved. So then you've got access to all the power of ad hoc in here. There, I can go and change the, I can change the source, do all the sort of things you could normally do within that, and then you can do the export from here. You can also save it away. So I'm going to save it away as they're going to save it into. I'm going to call it. Come on, where are you? I'm going to call that Dr. Jasper. If I can type for 2020, right? I'm going to save it into that. Now we save, we go back to here, look at the reports, and there's Dr. Jasper, right? Do the same thing you can create just a straight ad hoc view on this. Who cares? People don't care about whether it's our terminology, but from the consumer's point of view, it's a report, really. Or we can create a dashboard through this as well. I don't know, I don't know whether this one works. Let's show the selected and that. Oh, I've got to fix up that. This is a straight dashboard and so on. Again, you can create and do all that sort of thing with that. So this is the sort of realm of the sort of things that you can do with the Jasperport server user experience embedded with Visualize, or just thinking about embedding and using the various bits and pieces of Jaspersoft. Okay. All right. So let me keep going here. Okay, if I go back to my F11, is that right? All right. That's better. All right. So, so when you're thinking about doing embedding, these are the sort of things that you're sort of looking for, really, right? You want to end up with a seamless result for your audience. It shouldn't be jarring. The user experience should be all consistent and seamless. You want a productive development process. And you've got to fit into the application architecture. You've got to think about that data level security, personalization, and performance is really a major part of it as well, because we're talking about embedding. So people in a web app, and people have web app type speed expectations and that sort of thing as well, right? So there's sort of tuning, and that's the thing you'll probably get into to actually give the performance that you need in there, right? So this is the sort of general process for developing with Jaspersoft, sort of bottom up install, get your data right, get your visualizations right, and then finally embed. But really there's sort of this other, you can do it, to actually do it, air quotes, the right way. That's sort of at the end of the process. This is the project timeline that we did with the bike share project. And we started with a straight UX thing, because we had to basically create the scenario and the user experience. That's right. And then we set up all the foundational stuff. I was getting the data sorted out for it to make sure all the data was right for what we were trying to achieve. And really the sort of we didn't really get into developing the reports and visualizations. You know, we got the embedding correct pretty early on, and then, you know, developed the, it's about a dozen or so reports, as well as the domain on top of the bike share data and so on. And, you know, so it was really, you know, really was not a lot of, the actual embedding work didn't take a lot of time at all. That actual machinery to stick it all together, you know, it was mostly around design, getting the data right, and then you know, then implementation of the visualizations, interactions, and so on, right? So, so what sort of skills do you need to go and do this sort of embedding? Well, this is the team that we had running this, right? I did show you all. There's other workflows in there that were implemented. I didn't show you today. So there was me doing that, the data and sort of architect stuff. I didn't do the visualizations. That was Ms. Rachel Ross. This is the consulting firm Project 202, which we love. Xavier did the UX side of things. Crystal was project managing. Chad was like the lead UI developer, and he had a part-time, he had an intern working with him on this as well, which is fun. And Shane was like essentially our business guy, who like, this is what I want type of thing, right? To satisfy this demo. So, you know, you saw the sort of timeline in there. That's the sort of level of effort. Now, and if you're starting off, we start off with a blank page. So in your situation, obviously something different. You probably have an existing application, existing data, and, you know, you're maybe just adding on some user experience. So obviously not as much time and effort, but, you know, this is the sort of type of skill set that you need with all this, okay? All right, so architecturally, you know, Jaspersoft, when it's embedding, really just sits as a service. Your audience will not see Jaspersoft except through your application. And that sort of thing that we did with bike share is pretty key. Just architecture-wise is what the actual app is, which is, I think, is pretty typical. You've got a proxy there, and so behind the scenes we've got our React, you know, do the static website based on React. We build your website from your JavaScript and so on, and create the static pieces. That's just running off. We're doing Node. There was Nginx. Nginx was serving up the website. We had were there a couple of transactional REST services related to, like, oh, I'm a manager and I'm going to assign a driver to go and fix this bike share position or whatever, which were updating the database. And then the Jasper report server was there underneath that URL with its repository database, and it was also hooking into bike share as well. They're going to do all that sort of stuff, right? So this is pretty typical sort of architecture for modern web apps today, right? We saw all the sort of different options there for embedding, going from we're using REST in there, like I said, behind those maps. We did some iframe things for the designers, and then it was Visualize in amongst all that, which is, you know, we try to do it all, except we didn't want to do that, not integrated. That would be bad. All right, so I don't know how much time we're going to get to this, but just know that, you know, there's a bunch of resources out there. There's a whole webinar series on the development of the bike share app in all sorts of different ways, design best practices and so on. What we're going to look at here, though, is this wiki page. If you just go to our community site and look up for bike share, you'll find this page pretty quickly there. So let us go and have a look at that page, which is here. And I've got to do some more sort of stuff on it. But so what it's doing is stepping you through how you can embed Visualize into your application, and some best practices there. So you know, install it. You pull the Visualize.js JavaScript library into your application. and themes and so on that we have to help with some of the visual things that Visualize use. You define a helper class to help you be that sort of, what's the integration point between your application and Jaspersoft, basically. And then, you know, that helper does, logs in, executes Visualize calls. It also helps with, we got something in there to help with iframe embedding and calling the REST services. So this is out there for you to have a look at, right? Install Jaspersoft components to support embedding. This is what it is. This guy is the helper, right? It's one, we can go into, I think we're going to run out of time here, but this helper is essentially one class, in one JavaScript class that gets all the login. We used a token-based single sign-on in this, and as well as providing an API to you know, just easily plug a report, an ad hoc view, do a REST call, etc. in amongst all that, right? So this is the sort of general sort of thing here, right? So let's have a look quickly at open link in the new tab. So this is the helper. We log in, so it's one class, and we have a login. We deal with all the asynchronous stuff related to login and log out. Here is a nice class, nice little method that you can really easily use to have in your app. I just want to put a report here, please, and it basically wraps all the interaction and deals with things. You can do things like deal with errors and all that sort of stuff. Put it inside a particular, put the report or whatever within a particular part of the screen, and so on. Got ad hoc views, get the dashboards, get the input control. So this is how I got that data from to you know, get that top level stuff. The what was it? The regions and the time frame and all that sort of thing there. Get some resources. That's actually getting. That's how I got the list of reports in a particular list of content in that particular screen. So now you've got that there. Let's have a look at how it got used pretty quickly. So we're back into the. This is a particular screen inside the application. This is that main dashboard, and we've got, where was my friend? So we're getting the map here. We're getting the map data. That's the REST call, and then we put the map data in there, and the map can go and pick it up. We get some reports. This is how we got. Oh, display the report. That is actually the what's the face? It's the calling the helper basically to go and do that, and put the result inside a particular part of the screen and register a click handler, etc. It's the Visualize helper, etc. Get parameters. So this is the way you can do the integration in amongst that. So I'm thinking. So Mike, let's do a time check here. What can I do? I can, you know.
Yeah, no, so we are at the bottom of the hour, just to be respectful of people's time.
Yeah, I think I can just maybe wrap this up.
Yeah,
there's actually really one more slide.
Sure, and then we'll jump in.
And then we'll jump into the Q&A.
Yeah, and again, people, if you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A thing, and we'll jump into that. That will go beyond the half hour, but those that can stay can stay. Otherwise, you can watch the recording later. Okay. So go ahead, Sherman.
So this is where we were. There's a whole bunch of resources there. We've got a full ebook that's off Jaspersoft.com about some of these best practices and so on that we were talking about as well. And some sort of things that I would suggest is always have a UX-driven process. Don't have developers like creating the screens and just plonking stuff in there. Make it part and make the visualizations and reporting and data and so on meet what your audiences need, right? Whatever that is, okay? BikeShare, we try to do lots of different things, and there's a lot of content out there that you go and walk through. And certainly there's for those of you who've got customer success, got access to the great people like Mike and so on. They can help you through all that rather than sort of trying to work it all out for yourself. And one of the things that I always talk about with people is how to secure information, which is one of the core capabilities of Jaspersoft. All the things we do with multi-tenancy, which is also useful for dealing with, like, I've got an organization which has got a hierarchy, right? I've got hook into your LDAP, your Active Directory, to know where these people are, and you can use that information about the user profile to really personalize and secure the information being presented. Okay. So Mike, what do we want to do? Want to do the Q&A thing?
Yeah, go ahead and let's see. I'm going to stop.
What do you want to do?
We'll jump into Q&A real quick. The links that were included in Sherman's presentation, I've put in the chat window. If you're watching this on YouTube,
yeah, we should probably put that up on the in the text.
Yeah, included in the description down below, so they should be down there. This will end the actual presentation portion, and now we'll jump into the Q&A. We've only got a few questions here, but again, if you have questions, please feel free to add them as Sherman's talking here. So Sherman, we got a question here. You kind of talked about it, but if you want to just touch on it again real quick. The question was two parts. Would a generic JavaScript expert be perfectly comfortable with Visualize.js? And then the second part was, what about a UX expert as well for usability and look and feel? I think you kind of answered that, but if you want to hit that again, go for it.
So hang on. So the first one was the JavaScript expert, right?
Yeah.
So the actual actually, if I sort of share again, and now we go back to this stuff, right? Really if you do this sort of some sort of helper class, this really boxes in the where you need to really interact directly with the Visualize API. So once you get that done, and the model's here, folks, just use it. It's on the whole bike share demo is up on TIBCO Software's public GitHub. So all this, you can pull down this whole thing if you want to go and do that. It's got all the data and that sort of stuff as well. This helper really limits it. And then you make it your own from there, as I was showing you, right? We've got what's it? We're doing. Right. So then, then in where you want to sort of inject things, you have something like this, which is really very light. So that's been a lot of the beauties of Visualize, is the actual integration coding that you've got to do on the JavaScript end is very light. And you're relying a lot of the power of the underlying APIs and so on to go and do that. And then you've got all the capabilities of, oh, I want to put a click handler on things. Great. Let me go and do that sort of stuff, right? Get filled, So you're really at this level working natively in whatever web framework you've got.
Right.
Something custom or, something like your Reacts and Angulars and so on there. Yeah, and it can be a pure JavaScript thing, right?
So the quick answer is yes. A JavaScript expert should be very comfortable in building these Visualize calls.
And even a not so JavaScript expert, we found.
Right. Yeah. We've got a very good API guide that describes the majority of what's available out there, almost all of it. Maybe a few things missing here and there, but then using that guide, we found clients tend to be very successful getting what they want. And then there's also this GitHub site, and then there's also another website which I've put them in the links there. I think we put it already in there, but
you mean this one, Mike? This guy?
Yeah, that guy. So this is a great website that has fiddles for like every if you go to the live samples, and you can get these fiddles for every type of thing you can imagine that you probably want to do with Visualize, and they're all available for you right here. It shows you exactly how you'd want to do it. plug and play them into your own application, and it works really well. So once we show this to clients, they get very excited because it does help you develop this. And as far as the front end, that side, as you can guess, is really up to you guys, right? It's yes, a UX guy can design the look and feel, but that's the whole purpose of Visualize, is to give you that control of the look and feel, right, Sherman?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, you know, we've where was that? I have to go and find it, I think. Did I do this? If I look for demos, where is Waggle Practice?
Waggle.
So these guys, Waggle was really our, they started using Visualize before it was released. I helped them basically get up and running, and we learned a lot from them. Basically, all the bits and pieces you're seeing here are embedded reports with Visualize. Even this data stuff, they went and mucked around and did a whole bunch of things to make this completely interactive. So, you know, these sort of drill downs and all that sort of thing. So people went, you know, but they came at us with a 60+ page UX spec, because they built this this whole education management. This Waggle's award-winning, has both curriculum related to the US Common Core curriculum, K through the K, can't remember, K through 8 or something like that. So they've got actually gamified course content, and then all the analytics are happening behind the scenes using a third-party analysis tool called Newton, and then Jaspersoft is providing a lot of the UX in terms of the analytics and visualizations and so on. So you know, that is so that was you know, so the way we work with BikeShare, we did this with Waggle 2014. So we've been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah.
So Mike, in all the babble, did we answer the second part of that question?
Yeah, I think we did. I think we
Okay.
did. So let's move on. The next question should be a pretty easy one. I could probably answer this. Says, I'm assuming that once built out with SSO enabled for data relevance and security, the Visualize page can literally be embedded virtually anywhere, correct?
Correct.
That's right. It is
Yep.
correct. Our SSO, once you get that SSO up, you can use that pretty much anywhere in an application that includes Visualize.
Right. Yeah. So for example, with BikeShare, the only bit of Java coding in the whole thing was the single sign-on. All the rest of it was purely in the Jaspersoft tools,
right?
And the React work. That was it, right? So, and yeah, it can literally be embedded anywhere as long as you. I mean, if you want to do it sort of unsecured or whatever, sure, you can go and do that if you through some means sort of thing. But what's that?
I said not recommended, but
not recommended. Well, yeah, I mean, you probably want to. Okay. You know, if you've got a public website, like I've got some public metrics or something like that I want to display a report on, sure. Right. But generally, you know, there's some single sign-on integration with. Yeah. We got Mike. How many single sign-ons have we done over the years? Right.
I mean, I do on average a couple a month, I think, in my career.
Yeah. So yeah, so if you haven't gone through that. You know, it's a bit of Java coding. We've got some things that we do all the time, like SAML and OAuth, and you know, all those sorts of things.
It's close to my heart, and I'll give you a sneak peek at the answer here. But it did not win for our next session, the SSO. So as much as which we should have covered at the end of the presentation, I forgot. Yeah. We'll talk about that soon. Let's go ahead and get to the last few questions. Another relatively easy one. Version 7.5 fully supports ad hoc queries in Visualize. Yes. You can
ad hoc queries in Visualize, meaning so
the ad hoc views we know are supported, and that goes back to 7.1, right?
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah.
But the ad hoc editor is not supported in Visualize still to this.
Correct. Yes, we have not done that. We have not. As I was saying before, the ad hoc editor and the dashboard designer, which are the two screens that you would only be relevant for the sort of self-service type of thing. They are embedded with an iframe.
Right, and that relates to the next question, which is there a way to make the app without iframe integration? iframe's usually not good with responsive web design. And Sherman's demo shows both. It shows an iframe, but the majority of it's visualized. But go ahead, and if you want to explain again, Sherman, why we had the iframe there.
Well, it's just the way these screens work. So if we go and say create here or something like that, come on, or what have I done? Or maybe I've timed out or something stupid like that's better. Okay, we've got to do this. Dink dink, going from the top, manager, log in.
So everything you see here is visualized. There's no iframes involved until we get to that self-service sort of component. If you really want to provide this self-service component, now we've jumped into an iframe. So it's optional to you. You don't have to do this and make this available directly in your application, but some people want to make it available. So it's up to you if you want this component that Sherman's showing right now.
But this, how responsive do you need it to be, right? Is the sort of question, right? Okay, so I've mucked around with this, and then, oh, by the way, I want to just pull it in there type of thing. Is it, this is pretty responsive in my mind. Is it, and you know, adheres to the geometry, right? So,
and it should be said too that 7.5, once you upgrade this, is even more responsive than what you're seeing here. The 7.2, I believe, right, Sherman, that you're showing?
Yeah, at this stage, I haven't upgraded. So
it has changed, but that was just last month. So again, a sneak peek, we'll be talking about 7.5 next month.
Is that, you're letting the cat out of the bag?
Oh, come on. Well, people are starting to leave, I'm sure. So I'm
right.
No, but
okay.
yeah, so we'll definitely talk more about that. But yes, you're absolutely right. Iframes aren't usually good with responsive web design, but we've done our best to try to make the few components you need to use an iframe, we try to make it as responsive as we can. So again, this is not something that I would say the majority of clients want to give to their end users when they're talking about Visualize. It's usually a separate component to go create ad hoc reports. But if you wanted to do it, we do give you that capability. Yes, you would have an iframe, but only for those components.
So one thing which is pretty fun is with because the bike share was to be used by both the driver, who's probably just running around on a phone, as well as the manager. We made this whole thing responsive, and we did some fun things like, the actual it doesn't actually completely. It did do a responsive thing. So how did I make this? This is just a report being put out here, and but we're able to. Normally, with a Jasper report, you wouldn't do this sort of stuff. We've got some tricks to rearrange the report elements based on the geometry of of the container that it's running in, which was a little bit of that was a lot of fun actually. So because those of you who haven't sort of gone into it, generally the Jasper reports that we use are pixel perfect, and they're not. They can zoom a bit normally, and you can do that with Visualize, but they don't do a fully responsive design where they say rearrange for a different geometry like we're doing here. But we were able to do that by you're actually rerunning the report with a different. It's a master report with sub-reports, and we flick which master report you have. So there is the long, wide version, and then there is the small version. Same content, same sub-reports, different master report to sort of reflect the change in the geometry. So you can do it with Jaspersoft. You just have to think about it a bit.
All right, one more question that I have here, and I think Sherman, you anticipated this one might come. It's right up your alley. Just wondering how much of this can be used for Jasper IO.
So Jasper Reports IO, and I know there's a few folks on there who are into that. So obviously the self-service pieces, you know, in Jaspersoft.io there are no ad hoc, there's no domains, there's no dashboards in there, right? But all the reporting side, the Visualize.js what we call the JavaScript client library for JRIO is basically the Visualize subset. Okay, so you could do all this. I mean, the majority of these sort of so you could have done this with IO, and you could have done all this with IO. All right, using the JavaScript client library that JRIO has. All right. Now, of course, JRIO doesn't come with any security. If you haven't come across it yet, talk about smart proxies and that sort of thing, which you put a proxy in your application, which sort of wraps or controls the call into JRIO. We've done that a few ways so far. But basically, you can do all the output side that we're seeing here with JRIO. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Sherman. That's the last question. I'm going to stop your sharing and share my screen. So without further ado, the winning topic for next session, February 13th, will be all about the new Jaspersoft 7.5. Tips, tricks, advice, more info to come on exactly what's going to be in there. Pay attention to the Dr. Jasper office hours webpage, the one you guys registered on before.
There's also a 7.5
webinar coming up
next week.
No, that's right. That's right. So we do have a 7.5 webinar. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Make sure we get things, you know, things a little bit different between the two. But again, thank you guys for joining and sticking it out through the questions. We'll get this posted to YouTube. So if you have colleagues or anyone you know that missed it and wanted to watch it, we'll try to get it up there as soon as we can. It tends to take a few weeks or a couple of weeks to get it up there, but we'll try to get it up as soon as we can. And hopefully I look forward to seeing everyone next time. And again, thank you very much, Sherman.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. Have fun.
Have a good one.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.